In this video, we'll be going over the memorization approach of minimum path sum. So previously, we have finished the recursive approach of minimum path sum, and we have gotten our TLE error, and we're planning to optimize it using memorization. Now let's go over the thought process. So in the recursive approach, it was very inefficient due to overlapping recursive calls. We can avoid overlapping recursive calls using memorization. Now, what do we need to cache? So in each of the recursive call, we are trying to find the minimum path sum at the current cell RC. This means we can cache RC with the minimum path sum. Now let's go over to pseudocode. So we're going to create a 2D matrix, MIMO, to cache previously calculated results. So the rows represent R, and the columns represent C, and the values represents sum, the minimum path sum. And we'll implement the implement the top-down memorization approach. And we're going to pass in our MIMO, our cache. And then what is the base case? If MIMO RC is not equal to 0, this means we have already calculated the results for the current cell. So I can return the results, MIMO RC, to cache the results. Now we're going to cache the minimum sum into our cache. We're going to put the minimum sum into our cache, and it will return the minimum sum. Now let's go over time and space complexity. The time complexity changes to m times n because there are m times n possible states with RC. Now the space complexity changes to m times n because of our MIMO, the cache. Now let's go over the code. Now we're going to first create our two variables, the number of rows and columns. This is just allow us to have an easier time. Then we're going to create our MIMO, our cache. The same number of rows and columns as the input grid. And then we're going to pass in our parameter MIMO. And then we're going to check if we have already calculated the results of the current cell. If we have already calculated results, we're just going to return it. Now we're going to cache it here. And we also need to pass in our MIMO to our other recursive calls. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below. In the next video, we'll be going over the bottom-up 2D matrix approach of minimum path sum, where we will be converting the minimum path sum into a bottom-up approach.